Hello everyone, this is Pippin Williamson with pippinsplugins.com, and I'm going to walk you through the process of how to create a options table in your WordPress plugin that allows you to drag and drop the options into the order that you want. So what I'm talking about is a table such as something like this, where you can simply click on one of the rows, drag it to where you want, drop it, and it will save automatically using Ajax. You can see an example of this in my Easy Custom Content Types plugin. If we go to our meta boxes and we go to edit a field, we can actually order our fields just like this. And when we refresh, that order now saves. So that's what we're going to do, is we're going to create a really basic example of this that will show you how to drag and drop your fields into the order that you want. And this is applicable for a lot of different reasons. I mean, I just showed you one real world example where you're reordering the fields inside of your meta box. Your plugin could have a variety of options. I mean, you can see I've just named them option 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. But you could have any kind of option that you want the user to be able to drag and drop into the order they want. Another real-world example of this is where quite a few developers have built plugins to reorder either post, pages, or custom post types from the post edit screen. And so they can drag and drop them into the order they want displayed on the website itself. So this has a huge wide range of uses. So I'm just going to show you a really basic example and how it works. It's actually a little bit complex, but let's go ahead and get started with this. So we have this basic setup right here, and I'm going to go ahead and show you what I have. I'm not going to write all of the code for you. We're going to kind of start with a basic setup so that we have this table layout, we have our options defined, etc. What I'm going to show you how to write exactly is the jQuery and also the PHP needed to save the orders. So first of all, let me walk you through kind of what I have. We have a basic plugin setup here, where this is our main plugin file. We are setting up a plugin option. We have our includes right here for our scripts file, our Ajax processing, and our settings page. We also have an activation hook set up right here so that when the plugin is activated, it will add these default options to the plugin list called DAD_list, so drag and drop list. So these are going to be our default options, and this option will be created upon activation. We're using the if not is set right here to only do this if the options have never been created. If you activate the plugin, then deactivate and then reactivate it, we don't want to add these options back in because they already exist. Okay, over in our admins page, we just have a very simple table layout using the core WordPress styles, which gives us this appearance right here. And then up at the top, we're using the global DAD list to retrieve the option, which we set up over here. And then inside of our table body, we are doing a for each on the DAD list so that we can output each of the items into their own row. So you see option 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and you see their order outputted over here. So if you recall, we have each of our options defined in this array, option 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and here we're just outputting them. There are a couple key notes here. Number one is that every single list item row, table row, has an ID called list items _, then the key. So the key is the order. So key 0, key 1, key 2, key 3, key 4, key 5. And then each one has a class of list item. This is going to be very important in just a moment, so keep that in the back of your mind. Next is we're simply registering our options page, which is defined right here. And this is just using the add options page function, which you should be familiar with this. If you're not, I would recommend you go back and follow my complete series on writing your first WordPress plugin, because everything that I've just shown you here, or almost everything, is actually covered in that tutorial series. So if anything is confusing you here, go and watch that series and then come back to this. Okay, so we have our options page. Next, we have just a scripts file, and this is simply loading the jQuery UI sortable, which is required for the drag and drop. We are loading a jQuery script, which is going to manage the Ajax processing whenever we drag and drop our list. And then we have simply a simple style sheet that's loaded that gives us a couple extra styles for this. If you recall, back in our main file, we also have a process Ajax, which that file is right here and it's blank. This is what I'm going to show you how to write. In our scripts file, we loaded the update order.js file, which is blank as well. And then our admin.css has nothing more than defining the cursor for these table rows, just to give the user an indication that they can drag and drop them. Okay, so that was a really quick overview of what we have here. If that's confusing, don't worry about it too much. Basically, what I want you to have is just a table with a bunch of items in them that you can drag and drop. All of this code is going to be available at the bottom of the page for premium subscribers, so you can download it and start from there, no problem. Okay, and what I'll do is I will actually give you the starting code, what I have right here, and I will also give you the finished code. So that if you want, you can just simply start with this and then write the rest of the code yourself. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to write our update order.js file. And what this is going to have is a simple jQuery function that is made available from the jQuery UI sortable library. And this is going to allow us to drag and drop these. If you'll notice, I can't drag and drop. If I click and drag, it just selects everything like that. So the first thing we want to do is we want to enable the sortability. So let's just do this. DAD list, or sorry, this is a dash list dot sortable, like that. Okay, so this list should now be sortable. Let's take a look and see what happens. Oh, not quite. I forgot my period right there to make it a class. Okay, now let's try this. Okay, so you can see we can click and drag it, but it screws up a bit. All right, well, this is because the jQuery UI sortable class gives us a bunch of options. And by default, since we're saying the DAD list and that lit class belongs to the table, it thinks that we're trying to sort the entire table. So if we had two of these tables, for example, let's go in here and just put two of them in. Gotta save my file. Okay, so now we have two of them. Now we can drag and drop the tables into the order we want. Well, that's really not what we want. We want to be able to drag the table rows. So let's go back in here, and we're going to define a bunch of parameters. This sortable library has quite a few options. The first one that we're going to do is items, and items is going to be equal to the class of the item that we want to be able to drag and drop. And this is list underscore item, just like that. So let me save this real quick. Each row in our table has a class of list item. And if you see, now if we click and drag, we are dragging only the rows inside of the table instead of the whole table. Okay, so that works well. Now let's go ahead and set an opacity. This just makes it a little bit easier when you are dragging your items around. So now you see when we click it, it becomes transparent. So it has a 60% transparency. The next thing is we're going to define a cursor, and we're going to use the move cursor. This is also set in the CSS, but this is just to make sure that when we click and drag, we get this nice cursor right here. Okay, next we're going to define an axis. With jQuery UI sortable, you can actually do left and right as well, but we only want to do up and down. So we're going to define an axis. And the axis is going to be equal to y, so it's the vertical axis. If we refresh again, you'll see that instead of being able to drag left and right, we can only drag up and down. Okay, next is we are going to define an update function. So this is a function that we want to run whenever we drop the row. So basically when we drop the row, it's going to go in and it's going to update. So it's going to process the new order that we have. So this is a function. And inside of this function, we're going to do an ajax request. Basically, what we're going to do is we are going to serialize, meaning we are going to transform this into a post object. We're going to serialize it, and then we're going to send it to WordPress for processing via ajax. But let's go ahead and start with this. So var, we're going to set up a new variable, order equals this dot sortable. Now we're going to give it an option. It's called serialize. And this is an option available in the UI sortable library that will serialize all of our data for us. Plus action equals DAD update order. Okay, so what is this exactly? Basically, if you take an HTML form and you click submit, what you're going to end up with is a string of all of the input names and all of their input values. That's what this is doing. This, when we serialize it, we are basically saying, okay, take each list item, each one of these table rows, and set its value equal to the order defined over here. So let's take a look and see what this says. Let's just do alert order. Just like that. Now if we refresh, and let's drop one. Here's what it says. It says list items, and you can see it's got double brackets, so that means list items is an array. List items equals 1, list items equals 0, list items equals 2. So what that's saying is that the first list item is equal to 1, the second list item is equal to 0, the third list item is equal to 2. So let's refresh the page again real quick, and I'm going to show you this. This is 0, and this is 1. So if I simply swap these positions, now the first one is 1 and the second one is 0. So that means that the first list item in here, so this is going to have a key of 0, has an order of 1. The second one has an order of 0. Okay, so this is going to become very important in a moment because this is how we're going to update our list item order. Okay, so we now have a serialized string that we can use inside of our ajax function and also inside of PHP. So now let's do a simple post. Post ajax URL. Ajax URL is a global JavaScript variable available inside of the WordPress admin that points to the wp ajax.php file. So if you're inside the WordPress admin, you can just do ajax URL here as your first parameter, and this is basically saying the URL of the file that is going to process our ajax request. Order, which is what we just defined right here. So this is our data, our post data, and then function response. So this is just the function that we want to run when this ajax response is has successfully run. And what I want to start with is let's just do alert test. So the first thing, actually instead of alert test, let's do alert. No, that will work fine. Okay, so let's refresh. And now if we drag and drop, you'll see it says alert test. That means our ajax post has run successfully. So we have gotten here. This is basically the function that runs on success. So now let's do this. Instead of alert test, let's do alert response. And what happens if we ping the WP Ajax file without doing anything to it? Well, if we drop this, we see we get 0. That basically means that we have no action set up to process this post request. This might get a little bit tricky to follow if you're not familiar with the way that WordPress processes Ajax request. I have a couple tutorials on the site that kind of demo how to do it, so if you're a little bit iffy on this, go check out the Ajax processing tutorials on Pippin's plugins. Now, so what this means is we need to set up an Ajax function inside of our PHP that's going to listen for this post. Well, that's pretty easy to do actually. Function dad save order. And now inside of here, or actually let's attach this to an action hook. Add action wp ajax underscore. Now what we enter here is equal to this action right here. So dad update order, and then the second parameter is the name of our function, just like that. Okay, let's go and take a look and see what happens now if we do alert response. Drag and drop one, and we get 0 again. Well, that's because we're not doing anything inside of it. So let's do this. Echo test die. Now, what's going to happen? It should say test. So if we drag and drop, we see test. And that's because echo test, this is the response we're giving to the server. And over here, we are interpreting this response and then alerting it to the screen. So that means that our function right here is fully connected to our post data, or our post function. So now this order is going to be passed as a post variable over here. And if you recall, if we did alert order like that, remember, this is what we get. List items equal 1, list items 2, and then action equals dad update order. So that means this is our post variable. So let's take a look at this. Let's re-alert the response. And now inside of here, let's just print the post var like that. And let's see what happens. Let's refresh the page, drag and drop one. And now you see it says an array. List items is an array, and then the action is DAD update order. So that's really cool because that means that this function is fully talking to and retrieving and receiving all of the post data from here. So that's awesome. So what we can do now is, first of all, let's set up a global variable, DAD list, and this is the one that we defined over here at the very beginning that says get the option. So this is going to retrieve all of these as the actual option from WordPress. Okay, and now what we need to do here, this is actually a little bit complex, is we have to take the old list, take the new list order, and we need to combine them basically so that when we drag and drop one, option number 2 gets a new order of 3. Option number 1 keeps its order of 0. Option 3 gets a new order of 2. So we're going to update the order value for each of these options. The order value in this case is the array key. The array key, if you're not super familiar with it, let's take this array an example. So option 1, option 2, option 3. Option 1 has a key of 0. Option 2 has a key of 1. Option 3 has a key of 2, 3, 4, 5. So each one of these has a key one less than the option number. So this is option 1. It has a key of 0. This is because in PHP you start counting at 0. So 1 in normal counting is equal to 0 in PHP. So over here we need to take the array of new orders and we need to sync it with the existing option. So the way that we're going to do that is first we're going to set up list equals DAD list. This is kind of redundant, but it just makes it easier to write and read. Now, new order, like this, is equal to post list items. So all we're doing is setting up an array that's going to equal the array that we're passing through the post variable. Once again, this is just to make it easier to read. And now the new list equals a blank array. So this is let me show you here. Okay, so here we're going to update order. And now once we've updated the order, we're going to do update option, DAD list, new list, like that. So basically we're setting up our basic arrays. Here we're going to update the order of the array, and now here we're going to save it. Save the new order. Okay, so how do we go about actually updating the order? Well, it's a little bit complex, but it's not too hard. Let's just do a for each on the new order as v. So what this means is we're going to take this new order, which is all of the list items that we're sending from our ajax right here. We're going to loop through each one of those, and the value of each is going to be equal to v. So for the first one, when we drag and drop this, like this, option number 3, its v is going to be equal to 2. So this v right here will be equal to 2 for the first one. It'll be equal to 1, then 2, then 3, then 4. So this is the order, counting down. Okay, so now we say if is set list v do something. So what we want to do is we want to see, okay, is this key inside of our list array, is it set? If it is, we're going to do something. If it's not, we're not going to touch it. So new list v equals list v. So now what we're saying is, all we're doing is we're going to say if list v is set, so let's just imagine this. The first time this is going to run, if list 0 is set, then we're going to set the new list of 0 equal to list 0 here. That might not make sense, but that's what it does. And then it loops through every single time, setting up the new list array equal to all of these values here. But the thing that this does that's really cool is that this is actually going to take that old list and it's going to create a new list of it, but it's going to maintain this order right here. So the first one is going to be option 3, then option 1, 2, 4, 5, and 6. If we do this, then the first one is 6, 3, 1, etc. So let's save everything and let's go take a look. Oops, we screwed something up. Let's see. Let's try and figure out what we did. So what you see here is basically we have managed to actually delete our list. So we just have to double check that everything is correct. And now what I'm going to do, just to make this easy, and this is something that you have to do a lot of times when you're writing a plugin, is you do something, you screw it up, and you have to figure out what you did wrong, and then you have to fix it. So what I'm doing here is I'm simply forcing the plugin to recreate this option just to make sure everything's right. So we refresh. Okay, so now we have those options back. Now let's take a look at this and let's drag and drop one and let's see what happens. Okay, now we refresh and actually it's saved. So what this means is I didn't actually screw anything up. What I did instead is while writing this, I saved it, refreshed, did a drag and drop, and basically updated a blank list before I had done all of this. So basically I had this, I saved it, I drag and dropped one, and then updated, but new list was equal to a blank array. So I just emptied that option. So sometimes that happens, and you just got to make sure that you know how it happened and what you can do to rectify it. So let's take a look and see what happens. Go in here, we have option 2, 1. Let's take option 2 to the bottom. There's our empty response, which we can actually go and get rid of right here. So if we want to do something, we can say success, maybe alert the user. Okay, so we have option 2 at the bottom. Let's refresh. Option 2 is still at the bottom. Let's take option 6 to the top. Refresh. Option 6 is still at the top. So this is pretty cool. And what this means is that anywhere you output this array, it's going to be ordered in this order. Now, one thing you might notice is that this order is incorrect. So what's up with that? It says 5, 0, 2, 3, 4, and 1. Well, let's see if we can figure out what's going on with that. Because really, this should say, when you do this, this should be order 0, 2, 1, 2, etc. And if we take a look at this, that's actually kind of interesting why it does that. Well, it's a minor thing that's not entirely correct, but if you wanted to, you could easily update this. Here we go. Actually, you know what? Let's just go and do this. What we want to do is we want to set up a counter. So we're going to say count equals 0. And now, at the bottom, we're going to do count plus plus. Now, instead of echoing the key, we're going to echo the count. So now we see option 1 has an order of 0. Option 6 has an order of 1. Let's drag these around, refresh, and now our order is back up to date. Do it again, and there's our order once again, up to date. So this is it. That's how you create a drag and drop system inside of a WordPress plugin. It's a little bit complex, and I apologize if you had a little trouble following it, but ultimately it's not that difficult once you kind of wrap your head around it. So let me kind of walk you back through real quick how this works. First thing that we do is we set up an array of our options. And this array, this could actually be a table list inside of the SQL table, or it could be an option inside of the WordPress options database, which is what I've done. So we have an array of options. Then we output those like so, making sure that each item has a unique ID, which results in this. We set up the jQuery sortable, which does all of the heavy lifting for us in creating this drag and drop interface. We then set up a post function so that we can take all of these options, transform them into a post variable using the serialized option, Then we send that to WordPress like this, and we process that request using the WP ajax hook. And then all we have to do is go through the array and update each array item with a new updated key. Because the key itself, which is right here, is what defines the order in which the array is displayed. So basically, the array item that has the key of 0 is always displayed at the top, unless you're doing something to sort it differently. But in this case, key 0 is displayed at the top, and the highest key is displayed at the bottom. So when we do this, option 1 has it started with the key of 0, it now has a key of 5. Remember, because this is 6, but minus 1, so this is a key of 5. And if we refresh, we see that. So this is our key over here, key 5. Key 2 has a key of, option 2 has a key of 4. We take this down here, and now it's going to have a key of 5, and we refresh, and we see that. So all we're doing is we're updating the key, which then updates the order. If you're doing this with SQL, it's a little bit different because you actually have to have a column that's called like list order. In the WordPress, it's actually menu order, but that you would then update that using an SQL update function. So this is really a pretty cool system, and it's extremely applicable to all sorts of situations. Like I showed you in Easy Content Types, we have our meta box fields right here, which we can drag and drop into whatever order we want. We refresh, and we see repeatable upload is now there. And if we go over to our, I believe, let's see, which post type is this on? This is on post. So if we go over to our post, we go to a post, and now scroll down to the bottom, or wherever it's at. Let's see, where is my meta box? This is on side of post. It's here. I'm just blind. Let's just hide some of these so let's make it easier to see. Ah, there it is. Okay, so we have repeatable upload in color. Well, if we go over here, edit the fields, and now let's take color to the top. There it is. Color's at the top. So this is a really great way of making an editable interface that allows your user to put things in the order that you want. This is the same way that this works. Here we can drag and drop meta boxes into the order we want. It's using jQuery sortable, and all it's doing is updating the order and the position of where it should be. I mean, notice we can take the publish box and put it over here. We can take the publish box, put it over here. Now, this is obviously a bit more complicated than what I've just shown you, but it's the same concept. It works in ultimately the same way. You have a position stored in the option, and then when you drag and drop, you simply update that position using a combination of jQuery post and processing Ajax via PHP. So anyway, I'm going to make both versions of this available to download, so you will have the starting point and also the finishing point available to download if you are a premium subscriber. Thanks for watching.